Hello, beer supers, and welcome to another beer review with me, Peter, the master of hops. Today, checking out some beer from Sudden Death in Lübeck in Germany. I had to pick this beer up because they call it West Coast-ish, and because of this label. Look at that. That is insane. This is Green Flash of Hell. If you grew up in the 2090s, you might have played Doom. It was one of the first shooter games I ever played. And this label is genius. Like, this is, nostalgia made me buy this. You know, shooting cacodemons, is that what you call them? The ones with the one big eye? And then you shoot them with something that creates a green flash. The BFG, the big fucking gun. Or is it in the new games, it's BFG 9000. Like, this is fucking deep cut, but also really easy to understand if you played the games. I love this reference, and the extra deep cut is that like they call this West Coast, so it's even also a tribute to Green Flash, one of the OGs that's not making that great beer anymore. I don't know if they're still around. They've just become a very big brewery. The last time I had some, it was okay, but I haven't also really sought it out. We all know the story of Green Flash and buying up Alpine, watering down Alpine, you know. Now McElhinney is there instead of Alpine, which is great. The actual people behind Alpine. So if you know a little bit about also California beer history, not a lot of people love Alpine, Green Flash that much anymore. And like Chuck Silva, who was the mastermind, head brewer, brewmaster, he's also not there anymore. He has Silva Brewing Company, I think it's called, or something like that. So yeah, I just had to get this. Again, it's a triple IPA. I'm usually not the biggest fan of triple IPAs, but this had me sold. So I picked this up on Beer Dome. Saw it, had to get it. So I'm think they might still have this. So check them out. Link for the shop is down below. They actually just also got some more new Sudden Death stuff. I also have a double buck from them, which will be fun to try. I mean, they are a German brewery, so and they've done German styles pretty well so far that I've tried. So this is 10.5%, and it's they say I said almost West Coast like. So it says modern triple IPA. I wonder if it's because why they call it almost West Coast like. I'm not sure, but it's triple dry hopped with Amarillo, Cascade, and Columbus, and then it's finished with Superdelic, this new hop I tried recently in a monkish beer. They say gummy peach rings, orange rind, and pineapple, and warming alcohol. Our driest beer yet. Some will understand it, most won't. So West Coast triple IPAs, you want them to be dry and sweet. So it makes sense to me. So pours a fairly bright, slightly hazy golden yellow color. This looks like a lot of modern West Coast IPAs, actually. It looks maybe a bit more orange in camera, but it's not super clear. But some West Coast IPAs do have this hue. There's also a little bit of floaties in it. Oftentimes, brewers on the West Coast that get them really clear, they'll use finings or centrifuges or something like that to just get everything to drop. What you usually get is a beer that's a bit more refined and clean, still with a lot of hop aromatics, but often I find when they're lightly hazy, you get a little bit more hop aromatics, but you're lacking that beautiful clarity, you know. But that's just how it is. I still think this looks very nice. Like, this is not, you know, New England IPA hazy. Frothy White Head is still sticking around. Impressive for such a strong beer. And yeah, great lacing. It almost looks like black metal writing or something like that when I look at it. Fitting with this brewery. Well, let's check out the aroma on this one. Quite modern West Coast. There's definitely also some old school stuff to it, like orange, sticky, orangey, sweet citrus. Let's see here. What's Amarillo, Cascade, Columbus, and Superdelic. That's an interesting combo. Like old school hops and then Superdelic. I think all the unique things from Superdelic are drowned a little bit by the other hops, but there is a little bit of that kind of peach and candy, and they talk about them themselves as well, like peach and candies, or it was more like Starburst, like in the monkish beer, but mostly like grapefruit, sweet citrus, orange, tangerine. Like, to me, it smells more like, I mean, a lot of West Coast IPAs looked like this as well. It's like, when you think of the old school stuff and smelled like this, like the new school stuff is much more bright and less like sticky, icky, and sweet fruity. But that's not a bad thing. Like, and this is about a little more than a month old. But yeah, a lot of grapefruit, a lot of orange, a lot of tangerine. It's got a little bit of that like piney nuance, but then paired with like lots of sweet citrus, slightly sweet mango, tropical fruitiness, and yeah, like a little bit of that peach and candy or something like that. It smells pretty good. It smells like a big beer. Let's check it out. Cheers. Thanks to Beer Dome for the beer. It's a big beer. It definitely feels like modern West Coast. Oh, here comes the alcohol. Alcohol is definitely present. So that's why triple IPAs are notoriously hard to do. I think this one has too much alcohol for me. I really want to love this beer. Let's try and go for another sip. It's really dry, which I fucking love, but it's definitely gut pronounced. Like, triple IPAs are so hard, man. Like, you really need to slather them in hops for it to really work. And you really need to be so careful with fermentation and have really healthy fermentation because, oh, the booze is so easy to shine. Like, when you have a sweeter, hazy beer with loads of hops, it's easier to hide the alcohol. Like, bone dry West Coast beer with alcohol, it's going to be much harder. I'm getting more sweet tropical fruit on the flavor. Sweet kind of peach and candy, as they say themselves. But there's like a little bit of sweet mango and stuff like that. I'm actually getting a little bit accustomed to the alcohol in the second sip. It was not as bad. It's definitely modern. It doesn't feel as bitter. And there's definitely some drying bitterness to this. But I wonder if it's the really interesting thing with modern West Coast beers. When you focus so much on loading modern flavors in like this and cold whirlpools, all this, then even though you add a good amount of bittering hops, in terms of like using extracts, you'll get a more clean bitterness and it doesn't seem as expressive as it would be if it was like pellets and lots of hot side hop additions. So it's really hard to gauge the bitterness, I think, in modern West Coasters than classic ones. And often you can go even harder with extract than you can pellets, in my experience. There is definitely some hot side addition hops. There's some resiny notes, a little bit of a bitter resiny bite. Lots of grapefruit, lots of orange, lots of tangerine, a little bit of evergreen kind of piney notes. But then there's like this tropical mango and tropical citrus. This kind of reminds me of West Coast IPAs in like the Stone and Sculpin era. Like the 2012s, the 2013s, 14s, more so than it reminds me of West Coast IPAs these days. Because West Coast IPAs these days, at least those really modern ones, they're more bright on the hop aromatics and hop characters. There are more like totally light on the canvas of malt. Like, I think there's a touch of sweetness. It could be sweetness from hop flavors, but they're just like, they're much more crispy. They're much more like bright and hop centric and like fruity. But it's, I think, a big part of it, listening to podcasts with brewers talking, is about crop selection. It's about getting the right blend of hops. Like, again, there's Amarillo, Cascade, and Columbus. Like, those are some old money hops, but actually a sprinkle of Columbus is really good to amplify everything else if you just use a little bit. But I feel like those three hops really shine, and then the Superdelic is the afterthought. But it's good. It's definitely good. I like it more than I thought. So in terms of grade for Green Flash of Hell, I want to go straight 90. I like it. I think I would like it more if it was a double or single IPA and a little bit more, loaded on some modern hops. More fruitiness and everything. Like, when you use a lot of these modern hops and get it really fruity and cool, you can get like so much dankness and fruity weed-like aromas, like blueberry kush, pineapple kush, all these things. Like, a lot of these West Coast producers are doing. Like Shred, Ghost Town, North Park, Wondrous Brewing, Everywhere, Liquid Gravity. I mean, there's loads. Cellar Maker. I could go on. There's so many breweries out there on the West Coast that's just nailing it. But one of the big things, they're closer to the hops are cheaper, and so they can use even more often. And then also, like, I don't know if Sudden Death gets to crop select, but that's also one of the big key factors for making pretty damn amazing IPAs these days. That I really like. I think that's the next hurdle for me, is trying to get to do that. So, but awesome stuff. Really enjoyable. Like, if you love triple IPAs and you like West Coast beers, I think this is something you should check out for sure. So 90 for Green Flash of Hell from Sudden Death Brewing. Thanks a ton to Beer Dome for the beer. And if you guys had this one, let me know what you thought of it. And as always, remember to comment, subscribe, check the Facebook fan page and Twitter and Instagram. Give the video a thumbs up, enjoy it, and ring the bell for future notifications about videos. And I'm also cheers. And I'm pretty happy as well that the alcohol started to fade. The first sip seemed a bit more boozy, but this is also straight from the fridge because it's a triple IPA. But yeah, cheers, and see you guys in another beer review.